Hi, welcome back to Wedding Planning Wednesdays. It feels a lot later than 4:30 now, Pacific time because it's getting dark so early. I felt like I was gonna wear something else to feel a little more cozy. But in Los Angeles, it's still pretty warm during the day right now. Um, and that really has nothing to do with wedding planning, but just a little bit of color for this season. My name is Jane Yu. If you have never been on my channel before, I am a wedding and event planner based in Los Angeles. I own a company called UNS Events with my husband, John, and we offer planning, design, and DJ services. I especially love supporting my engaged couples from beginning to end, helping them plan and design their wedding, just supporting them along the way, hopefully keeping their stress levels as much to a minimum and their enjoyment to a maximum. I think it's really important to have fun while wedding planning because it's just super stressful anyway, so that you might as well have fun. Try to have fun doing it, right? It's supposed to be a fun and an enjoyable time. Today, I did want to talk about just why hiring professionals is so important. But before we dive into all of those things, I did want to just touch upon the fact that the Supreme Court decided not to revisit the same-sex marriage law. And I think it felt like a big win just in general for the community because just in light of everything else that's going on with our country, I think this felt like a really big win. And I know that there may be still, what's the word, energy and opposition against it. But I did want to just mention that because it had been a long time in the works of this other case trying to challenge the past decision. So to me, that was a win. I just wanted to celebrate that, even though it may feel small, but it felt really big to me just in light of things that are going on. So today I wanted to talk about why hiring professionals is so important. And I understand that a lot of people want to plan their weddings themselves, but I think there are certain things that you don't really want to skimp on, not in terms of budget per se, but in terms of experience. And the thing that makes planning so great, and one of the things that I love about it is the people, like working with my couples, working with great vendors, working with my team on the day of, working with John if he's DJing or helping me, or if I'm helping him or whatnot. But I think one of the hardest things too, that sometimes is challenging as much as I love it, is also the people. And I say that because there's just so many different people involved. I've done videos about this, from family to vendors and just dealing with people in general. And I was just writing or thinking about this episode, and I was like, I love it, but I also don't really love it at the same time. And I think for your wedding day, for it to feel the best, you want the best people for you around you. And, that's different for everyone. That looks different for everyone. The priorities are different for everyone. So I wanted to just touch upon some things that you can think about to help surround yourself with the best people that you want for your wedding day. Sometimes a dream vendor may look like a dream vendor online, but their pricing doesn't match your budget, or sometimes you don't always get what you see. And that's the thing about social media. So you do have to do your due diligence a little bit to get to the place that you need to get. Weddings are already so stressful, like the high level of stress, so many emotions, which I completely understand. I think as a planner, when I'm working with my couples, it's a little bit less obviously emotional for me. And I did find a difference though, or feel a difference after I planned my own wedding, because the way I had kind of handled clients before that versus the way I handle clients after, it just made me a lot more empathetic, because I had gotten married myself, and I finally understood what it was like to be someone getting married and a bride. And so even though I knew all the mechanics of planning before I became a bride, I didn't truly understand like why it was so emotional and so difficult for them, because I'm always thinking it's going to be fine. I'll figure it out for you and help you. But there's so many personal layers that come with planning. So I totally, totally get it. And all the more reason why to surround yourself with people that you actually like and want to work with and want to support you. So no matter how much, and also no matter how much you plan, there's things that always go wrong. So it doesn't matter. The simplest, most straightforward weddings, there's just things that always come up. And it may not be like going to derail the wedding itself, but at the same time, you don't want to be dealing with that when all you just want to do is enjoy your day. So for example, this weekend, my client is getting married and it is going to be a really, really rainy one. And we all know how much weather can suck if it's not great. And so of course there's a plan, but it's not ideal because, for pictures, we had plans to do it outside. And of course, if it's a beautiful day, it just feels really different. But at the same time, I was trying to tell her that it's still going to be beautiful. All of her friends and family are going to be there. And so my job is to really kind of help them implement this rain plan and also just think of ways to just keep them positive and upbeat still, because the meat of the wedding won't change. Like the core of it won't change, obviously. And everyone is there to celebrate the couple. But all that to say, that's why, if you were a couple dealing with all of this on top of the normal wedding stuff, imagine how much more stressful that would be. So some things that I would suggest or recommend to make sure that you have the best people. I think the best way to get vendors a lot of times, maybe it's hard for planners, although you can ask your friends who they used for planning if they are married. But if not, then I feel like planners are, if you are going to have one, it's like the first stop where you, what's the word? It's the first stop vendor that you book. And so for planners, it's a little bit more tricky because if you don't know anyone who's gotten married or used one, then you might not be able to get a referral. But for most other vendors, you should be able to get referrals either from other vendors or for friends who use them, or even if you post on stories or something like that, chances are someone knows someone who did a great job at their wedding or event. And I think that word of mouth is probably one of the best ways to get a great vendor. That's not to say the quality is always consistent across the board, but it's safer than just finding someone cold online. Like I saw this scam photographer who was scamming couples, which is so terrible. He was scamming couples, and finally, I don't know, there was a whole website dedicated to this person who was scamming. And so I'm not sure like how they got roped in with this person, but it happened to multiple people. So all that to say, just be cautious and just do your research before booking anybody and spending money on a deposit. With these referrals, even with referrals, or let's say you found people through Instagram or the Knot or like whatever platform that you're searching for vendors, definitely schedule discovery calls. I think for discovery calls, especially with planners, coordinators, DJ, photographer, these are people that are going to be pretty involved in your wedding and you're going to be spending a decent amount of time with. I think it's always great to just put a face to a name, see how their personality is, how they present themselves, how they talk about their business and about their work and their process, because that's going to show their experience, that's going to show their vibe. Like, what's the vibe? Like, your gut will tell you, is this person experienced or are they just kind of faking the funk? And I would rather someone tell me that maybe they're a little bit newer, but they are, committed to really figuring everything out for you and like just telling you what their process is so that you can trust that they care. Because I've honestly talked to some vendors sometimes that are dismissive, and that's my biggest pet peeve. Like, I'm trying to talk to you about something. And I hate it when they say, oh, we do this at every wedding. And I'm like, well, this is not every wedding. It's my client's wedding. And I'm asking because I want to make sure that I cross my T's, dot my I's. And it's, I think, unprofessional for you to cut me off while I'm trying to ask you a question by just saying we do this at every wedding. And even if that is the case, that's fine. But I'm trying to ask a question for a specific reason. So I would definitely be wary of anyone that's a little bit dismissive or a little bit flippant about the questions you ask. Because even if they're asked these questions a million times, especially on discovery calls, they should take the time to explain it to you instead of just being like, oh, like, don't worry about it, you know? So as a planner, I do tell that to my clients though sometimes, because I do feel like there are logistics that they don't really need to worry about. And I try to take things off their plate and make it less stressful for them. But I never try to be dismissive. I will explain as much as they need explaining, until the point where I feel like it's not necessary just for their headspace. At which point I'll ask them, hey, like, I don't think you need to know this. I really can explain it if you want, but I think our time is best served efficiently in other capacities. So try to explain it in that way. But imagine if someone is being dismissive on a discovery call when you haven't even booked them yet. How are they going to be during the planning after you give them your money? I think I would definitely be cautious of that. A lot of times, the next thing, the other thing that I would think about is higher prices probably means more experience, that they have more experience or they have a team, like they've been in business for a while, but that doesn't necessarily mean that service will be better. And I don't know exactly how you might be able to tell if it will be good or not. Sometimes, especially with venues, there's sales managers who then pass off to their actual event day managers. And so the sales manager rapport that you might have built or the vibe that you got from the sales manager might not necessarily translate to the event manager. A lot of times venues and hotels operate that way, or caterers. Sometimes there's just people pre-planning before the actual event day, and then they hand it off to an on-site team. And so there's definitely some things that are lost in translation there. But usually if the pre-event manager or sales manager is good, it usually means the actual execution person will be good as well. But that's just something to think about. And maybe you can ask them in the process, like, hey, are you going to be my contact through the rest of this process? Or is it going to be somebody else? And can I meet that person? Perhaps if you really, really wanted to meet that, or if you really wanted to like just get an all around vibe check. I would definitely pay attention to how they present their packages. Is it easy to understand? Like, have they really laid it out so that it's easy for clients to pick what they really want and need? And I feel like that does go a long way, because if they have kind of a hodgepodge of information that doesn't make sense, then I would kind of question that as well in terms of their experience. If you're planning most of the wedding yourself, I would say that it is doable. I wouldn't say it's not doable, but think about the time that you're spending communicating with everybody, right? And so a couple books an average, or every couple books an average of 14 wedding vendors, according to the Knots vendor reports in the past. And that's a lot of people that you have to reach out to, that you have to research, that you have to get pricing. You have to just get on discovery calls. You have to decide on all of the different details after you book them. You have to follow up. And I joke about this sometimes. I'm like, my job as a planner is 50% just asking the same question 5 times in follow-up emails. And it's funny, but it's also not funny because it's kind of true. And I am guilty of this too, especially when it's busy season. there's so many emails flying back and forth between vendors and us and couples even, that I understand. I try to have grace because I need to give myself grace too. And I try to be as thorough as possible. But sometimes when you're moving a million miles a minute, it's really hard. And so, but imagine like you're going to have to do that if you don't have a planner to do it on your behalf. And so that's just something to think about when figuring out what kind of people to hire, what level of packages of planning you might want to hire. But, I always say at the very, very, very minimum, you want someone that's not on your, like, part of your guest to be your coordinator and manage the day, be the point of contact for venue and vendors that you pass off everything to, because you don't want to be worrying about any of that, about any contingencies for issues that arise. Like, you don't want to be worrying about any of that. So for that, I definitely recommend you want someone that you trust. I've had clients come back to me or not clients, potential clients in the past who didn't go with me, come back to me with referring their friends to me because, at that time they couldn't afford my services or didn't want to pay my services. But then they ended up referring their friends to me as opposed to their coordinator because they just were not happy with the services that they provided. So I think it's really important to just go with your gut. And again, higher pricing doesn't necessarily mean better, but it usually does mean more experience. And that's something that you deserve on your wedding day. The last thing that I would recommend for sure is take the time to read reviews online. And I think it's more than just being like, oh, do they have 5 stars? I would read what people are actually saying about them. Like, is it just 2 lines? Or, are they really writing a detailed review about like how they were during the process, etc. I do notice the clients that I spend a lot of time with, like full planning packages, they write me really thorough testimonials, which I really appreciate. And they also give me feedback too, which I ask for. And I learn a lot from that because I, as a planner, see things a certain way. And I sometimes forget that not all, like most couples have not done this, like not even planned any kind of real event or, most of the time have not planned a wedding. And so I forget that they don't know as much as I do, obviously. So it's refreshing to kind of hear because it helps me sometimes refresh my perspective, maybe tweak how I'm telling them certain things, because sometimes I feel like I'm communicating things in a certain way or saying certain things, but they don't receive it or interpret it or understand it that way. And it happens. There's always communication gaps, no matter how clear you think you're being. And so it's just a matter of it's just how it is in general, like with people and the world. So that's just something that comes with the territory. So I understand it can get frustrating because you might have to go back to the vendor or people like multiple times to be like, what about this? What about this? Or is this what you were saying? So I don't think you should ever feel bad. You should be empowered, feel empowered to get clarity as much as possible because so much gets lost in just the lack of clarity. And so the more clear you can be, the better. And there's just some things that might have to get figured out on site, but you should feel empowered to ask the questions that you need to get the answers that you need. So yeah, I think that wraps up my live today. I think, I see a lot of couples out there. I have been trying to just keep my ear to the ground on various social media platforms and communities to see what people are talking about and stressed out about with weddings. And of course, every wedding is different. No wedding is built the same. And I think it's important to remember that the people that you surround yourself with, though, that doesn't change. I think that should remain a non-negotiable, from your wedding party to how you want your family members to support you, like what your expectations are, what their expectations are. It's all very different for everybody. So communicating, keeping those lines of communication open. I just saw something on Reddit today about someone having a micro wedding and they were having issues with one of their sisters. And it was really sad to read because I understand kind of not both sides, but I felt like the way this person communicated, they were keeping a line of communication open to their sister to come to the wedding, and it didn't seem reconciled, and it's 3 days away. And at that point I felt like she had done her best. So she didn't need to feel the pressure to reconcile with her sister at that point because she had already tried, and I felt like it was so close to the wedding date. But things like that, like things like that come up, and I know that's not vendor related, but just having professionals to be a sounding board for me, it's I try to be my client's cheerleader, their biggest supporter. But I also try to bring them down to earth when I'm like, that's not going to fit within your budget, or we don't have enough time to do that, or are you sure you want to do X, Y, and Z, because these are the steps it's going to take to get there. And so I try to be very forthcoming, and they have as much information as possible. Anyway, I ramble a little bit, but if you do have any questions, I actually cannot see. I literally don't know how to, I still have not been able to fully grasp like the technical aspect of doing my lives. And so I hope that you enjoyed this, but if you are interested in just finding out more information about my one-to-one planning services, you can feel free to comment or send me a message. All my information is in the description. I also have my free wedding planning guide for people who are interested in just doing it themselves or most of it themselves. Just a little bit of a planning timeline and task list to get you jump started. It's at tinyurl.com/bestweddingguide, also linked below. But otherwise, if you drop comments in the question, if you like this video, I would love if you could hit that like button. And I also wanted to say thank you. Maybe I should have started with this, but thank you to the people who have been engaging with my content just across the different platforms, as well as subscribing to my YouTube channel. It's been really encouraging to see, in a lot of discouraging feelings sometimes. Just like, hello, is anyone out there? Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself, which is fine, but I have been getting replays. So I feel like maybe my content is speaking to some people, and I hope that you'll come back. But please, if you have any questions, I really want to answer them on my lives. So please drop them in the comments, and I will